What's up guys, I'm Phoenix Master 1 and welcome to my unit review and builds guide for Flame Tribe banner featuring Lyn, Tana, Rinkah, and Muspell. So Lyn is gonna be the first unit that I go over because she is essentially the star of this banner despite not being a Harmonic unit. So she's got Firelight Lance, which gives her -1 special cooldown, and she can get +5 to all of her stats with this weapon, and she can also deal true damage based on 15% of foe's attack. And if the foe has got 4 less speed than Lyn, then she's able to get the guard effect against them, and after the combat she can essentially get the mini special spiral to herself and any allies within 4 spaces of her. So this weapon is definitely pretty stacked, so the guard effect is always going to be helping as a tank, and the fact that you have a mini special spiral here means that you can use Vital Astra really well, and you can also use Godlike Reflexes really well, because after the Godlike Reflexes triggers, you are going to be able to retaliate back, and that is going to be counting as 1 cooldown, and then after the combat you can just pre-charge it with this kind of mini special spiral. And the true damage always helps against the meta threats which have extremely high attack stat. She also has Godlike Reflexes as the new inheritable speed-based special, and it's only inheritable to sword, lance, and axe infantry units, so it does have the speed check similar to her weapon, and if you win the speed check, and if the unit special is ready or it triggers during the combat, then you can deal 15% true damage based on your speed, and when the special triggers you're able to get 40% damage reduction. Now keep in mind that the damage reduction you get out of the special is similar to a defensive special, so it's not going to get pierced by Deadeye or lethality. So this special goes really well with her weapon, and she already comes with Shield Pulse to pre-charge it, and then after that she's going to be able to loop her special by using the mini special spiral in her weapon. She also has Verdict of Sacae, which is basically a Spectrum finish skill because it is quite similar to the finish skills in terms of the healing and the true damage that you can get. So you're able to get +5 true damage because of having Godlike Reflexes pre-charged, and you can also heal up HP because of it, and at max like you can get +12 to all of your stats in the combat. So that is a huge thing because with the other finish skills it's only like +7, but this is +12 to all of your stats. And then combine this with her weapon, you're essentially going to be getting +17 to all of her stats because you just need to have 2 allies within 4 spaces of her, and you're going to be getting all of those stats really easily. She does have Shield Pulse and Speed Smoke 4 in her base kit, and Shield Pulse is really nice for pre-charging Godlike Reflexes for the first combat, and then Speed Smoke 4 is going to be helping you after the combat getting more damage reduction, but keep in mind that this is going to get pierced by Deadeye and lethality as it is the usual dodge. And overall Flame Tribe Lyn is a really fantastic unit. The limiting factor of Lyn is that she can not only run distant counter while also having Verdict of Sacae, and now she can also get null follow-up as a Sacred Seal, so that is extremely good. She also has really good stat spread to make full use out of this weapon and the slot A skill, and she does have super boons in her attack and speed. And Lyn's speed tier is extremely good to meet the speed check of her Godlike Reflexes and also her weapon. So she's going to be functioning really well in Aether Raids and Summoner Duels competitively, and especially now that we have Might of Myriads as a captain skill in Summoner Duels, she's going to be a really strong unit whenever that captain skill is available. And it's not like you always have to use Godlike Reflexes on her. She's also a really good user of Vital Astra because outside of Ascended Marita, she can also pretty much keep it charged because of the mini special spiral built into her weapon. So that is really good, and you can easily run Time Pulse to pre-charge it. So Lyn has a lot of options honestly, and is definitely a very strong unit in pretty much any kind of game mode, and she also provides amazing fodder. So in my opinion, she is the star of the banner with how strong she is, and we usually don't see that many like extremely good lance infantry units. It's usually a lot of sword infantry units, and she's definitely going to be seen quite a lot in Summoner Duels. You've probably seen her already quite a lot in Summoner Duels S, and especially when Might of Myriads is a thing. And before I go over the best users of Godlike Reflexes and the units that you can run on this, I think we need to just clarify a couple of things about it. So this is only to be used on fast infantry units, and I personally believe that as long as your unit can hit over like 55 speed, that's a pretty good speed tier. So if you don't win the speed check, then that's definitely not good. And in my opinion, the units who have slaying weapons that have -1 special cooldown built into it, I think that's needed to make it consistent. And then pre-charging it with shield pulse or through support is always appreciated. And for looping it, if any kind of unit has got mini special spiral, or if they have special acceleration through World Breaker or something like that, then that is also really good. And we also have units like Spring Sonia, for example, who can pre-charge it, or we also have Fallen Inian who can give you the special acceleration as a status. And again, speed check is a big thing about the special, so definitely keep that in mind. And because this is a defensive special, it cannot get pierced by Deadeye or Lethality or any of those specials, so that is really good, especially when you're tanking the range units. And the 15% damage that you get out of this is true damage, so as long as your special is pre-charged, you're going to be able to get that true damage, which is really good offensively as well. But I would say that not many units make the best use out of Godlike Reflexes because there are a lot of factors to make this work, as you can see. So you need to have -1 special cooldown weapon, you need some kind of way to pre-charge it, and then you need some kind of way to get it going, like Flashing Blade or maybe Darting Breath if you don't have any kind of support. So while this is going to be a useful special, you have to ask yourself, at what cost? Because you're giving up on your slot B skill for running Shield Pulse if you're running that, you're giving up on your Secret Seal for special acceleration if you're running that, and you might also need some external support. Compare that to Vital Astra, which I think many units can use. It just needs Time Pulse in the slot C and you can pre-charge it on a slaying weapon unit. So overall, I would say that Godlike Reflexes is going to be a bit more of a niche special compared to Vital Astra. The main highlight of this special is that it's not pierceable by Deadeye and Lethality, and if you're mostly facing melee opponents, then you don't really need to worry too much about Vital Astra getting pierced because there are not too many skills or like inheritable specials like Deadeye or Lethality available for the melee units. The best users of this special are going to be the units which have the things which I mentioned before, and Ascended Marita is easily one of the best Godlike Reflexes users because she also has mini special spiral just like Flame Lyn, and she also has Quicken Pulse built into it. So you just need one special cooldown from somewhere else like Asker, Legendary Hector, or Duo Chrom. You can also get Null Guard out of the Velocity, which is really good for keeping the Godlike Reflexes going, and especially when you're going to be facing the range opponents by using Distant Dart, this is going to be helping you quite a lot, and you can pretty much get even more damage reduction with Velocity and Speed Smoke 4. And you can also run this on Rutger, and you can easily run Attack Speed Finish 4, which does have good synergy with this kind of pre-charge special. And he does have -1 special cooldown and as well as special acceleration. So once you pre-charge it, you can get it going pretty easily because of the special acceleration in his weapon. So you can definitely function like he does in FE6 with a build like this. And you can also run this on Brave Celica. She's one of those rare units who actually wants Godlike Reflexes over Vital Astra because of the mini special spiral in her weapon as well, but unfortunately she doesn't have -1 special cooldown like the other two units in this image, so you will have to pre-charge it, but she does have the blade effect essentially, so it's not going to be that hard to do it, and you can get a lot of healing out of the finish skill, out of her weapon, and also the bulwark skill, so this is a pretty self-sufficient build. And then if you're going to be running this on units who don't have those things which the other units had, then you are going to be needing to run Darting Breath or Flashing Blade as their Sacred Seal to get the special acceleration. Saber, of course, is a pretty nice user of it, even though he's not the fastest unit. Still, he can make use of this because of Golden Dagger giving him that distant counter whenever his special is charged up. So Spring Sonia can definitely be used here so that he can essentially pre-charge Saber's Godlike Reflexes. And Leaf is pretty nice unit with Arcane Elutnir, so that could also be done with many of the Arcane Elutnir users who are fast. Ira can also work with this Weapon Refine and her special, and you can run Shield Pulse to pre-charge it, or you could just run Null Follow-Up. If you're running Shield Pulse, then you could definitely give her Null Follow-Up from external means like Infantry Speed Tactic or maybe Fallen Lilith, so that can always be done for these kinds of fast units. If you want to use Lyn on a budget, then Null Follow-Up Secret Seal is going to be the best choice here because she's pretty much missing that out of her weapon and her base kit. And if you want, you can also run this in her slot B if you can pre-charge her Godlike Reflexes through other means and through other support units. And that way you can have more stats by running Attack Speed Solo Secret Seal. She can definitely make use of the Solo Secret Seal because the condition from her Verdict of Sacae is definitely pretty lenient. And you can also run her with Vital Astra. Like I said before, she's also a pretty good user of Vital Astra, and it's kind of funny how Marita and Flame Lyn can use each other's inheritable specials. So you can easily stack up the damage reduction using Velocity, Speed Smoke 4, and Vital Astra, and this can essentially give you 75% damage reduction. And pre-charging something like Vital Astra is extremely easy nowadays, and if you're mainly going to be facing the melee units, then there's no kind of threat of getting your damage reduction pierced as of yet. You can use any of these builds in Summoner Duels, but if you want to optimize a bit more for Summoner Duels, I would suggest having low attack speed, and this is definitely pretty nice for a lot of the melee matchups, because a lot of melee units are going to be having the visible buffs to their attack and speed, and especially it is going to be quite suffering for a lot of the Brave Selefs as well, who have the visible attack and speed buff. So I think that low attack speed is really good for Summoner Duels, and you can also pre-charge her Vital Astra with Time Pulse, and in a lot of Summoner Duels teams, you're just going to be having her covered with a far save unit, so it's not that big of a deal to have Vital Astra over Godlike Reflexes, and I think a lot of Lyns do prefer having Vital Astra for Summoner Duels over Godlike Reflexes, and you can easily run something else in your slot B. You can also run her with Speed Defense Bulwark in Summoner Duels if you want to do that. So it does have the Obstruct effect built into it, and she can also get even more healing out of it. So if you want the Obstruct effect, then this build can be useful. And you can also get the Oath 4 skill so that you can essentially have more offenses. And then you can just pre-charge her Vital Astra with something like Duochrome. And finally, whenever Might of Myriads is a captain skill, that's when she can get Distant Counter and +6 to all of her stats. So she already gets like +17 to all of her stats from her slot A and weapon. So the fact that she's able to stack up this much, stats and also having Distant Counter is really incredible. So you're going to be seeing her a lot in Summoner Duels whenever this captain skill is available. And you can easily pre-charge her Godlike Reflexes with some support. And Godlike Reflexes is going to be helping you a bit more when Might of Myriads is available, because she's going to be able to get the Distant Counter effect, so not getting pierced by Lethality or Deadeye is definitely nice. But you can also run Vital Astra if you want to, if you're just going to be covering her up with a far save tank. So both are good options, and you can just give her external null follow-up support with someone like Fallen Lilith, because then you don't have to run null follow-up in her slot B or Sacred Seal, and you can just focus on having more stats or by running the Lult skill. So it can definitely help you quite a lot, and you can also have an extended threat range because of Fallen Lilith being able to teleport. And it also gives you good color coverage because you can definitely take out a lot of green units with Fallen Lilith if they are going to be able to kill Lyn. And even a lot of green units are going to be struggling to kill Flame Tribe Lyn, and I do speak from experience because I've faced her so much this week and probably going to be doing that in Summoner Duels S as well. Lull attack speed can also help you against the Duo Dagger matchup when you have Might of Myriads, because you can not really fear her that much because you're going to be able to reduce her damage output, and that is really helpful. So if you have Flame Tribe Lyn, then definitely use her in Summoner Duels, especially in Summoner Duels S competitively, because she's really good there. And she can also work out in Summoner Duels R and in regular Summoner Duels, because the fact that she does not immediately die to Brave Selef is pretty amazing. And if you run lull attack speed, then it's even better. So if you really hate facing Brave Selefs, then this could be an option. And against a lot of the melee threats, Flame Tribe Lyn is going to be doing a pretty good job taking them on. And with the speed tier that she has got, it's going to be pretty hard for the opponents to double her. And by running null follow-up, you just are going to be immune to the auto follow-ups. And if you want to use her in Aether Raids Chaos, then that's also an option because you can only bring one save unit. So she can just take on the melee matchups while you can far save with your other units. And far save is pretty nice because you can also cover up your other teammates from getting sniped if the ranged opponent gets danced or rallied or something like that. And even with the base kit, she's going to be working out fine there. So you can just run this kind of budget build there. But if you want to invest a bit more for Aether Raids offense, then you can run the Bulwark skill, and this is going to be giving you the Obstruct effect. And because you're mainly going to be taking on the melee matchups, you can run Vital Astra, and if you're going to be running her with Asker, then you can easily pre-charge Vital Astra and take on the melee matchups with that damage reduction, and also providing the Obstruct effect, which can definitely protect your team. You can also use her in Arena at max investment with a build like this. Null follow-up is going to be needed there, and I think that Vital Astra is a lot better because it's a lot easier to pre-charge than Godlike Reflexes, and null follow-up is good in the slot piece so that you can run bonus doubler to get even more stats for Arena usage. Tana this time around is a green dagger flyer with kindling Tycho as her preferred weapon. This provides her with -1 special cooldown, and she can also give herself and any kind of ally within 2 spaces the Canto 1 status effect. So this is going to be a visible status and a positive status, so even infantry units can get access to Canto 1 without really running Florid Cane or anything like that. So this makes Harmonic Tana into an extremely good and unique support, because anyone can have Canto 1 now, but keep in mind that Canto does not stack, so if you give this to someone like Regan, it's not like she's going to be getting Canto 4, so just keep that in mind. You can also get +6 attack and speed in combat with this weapon, and also half null follow-up, which allows you to bypass any kind of follow-up negation units, so she can easily destroy a lot of armored tanks and their follow-up negation effects, like Brave Hector for example, with this kind of weapon. And in the player phase, if she's facing any kind of non-red foe, then she's able to get extra attack depending on 20% of her visible attack stat, and also inflict penalty on their attack stat depending on foe's visible attack stat. So overall this effect is really good because it allows her to hit even harder against the non-red foes, and also have much better survival if you're running the other sweep skill and they are a different weapon type. So overall this weapon makes her into a really strong far safe tank buster, and she can definitely do well against, common far safe tanks like Ascended Idunn and Brave Hector. But now that we have Duo Duma, that is definitely a unit that you have to watch out for, because he's usually going to be running distant counter and he's not going to be dying that easily to Harmonic Tana. And Summer Edelgard is also a red far safe tank that you have to watch out for. And with the base kit that she has got with attack speed catch 4, speed defense hold, this is really synergetic in itself to be offensive in the player phase. And she also has pretty good attack stat at base 39, having a super boon in it, and also base 42 speed with a super boon in it as well. If the far safe tank has got deflect missile and hardy fighter with something like Aegis, then it is going to be a bit hard for Tana as well, because she's not going to be able to trigger lethality that easily, especially if they run some kind of guard effect on them, and a lot of far safe tanks are going to be running that. So that is some of the things that you need to watch out for. So overall, she is a really fantastic player phase nuke who can also provide the support of Canto 1, and Canto 1 can be really good for many units, especially the ones that lack the trace skills or cannot run it because of being an infantry unit, or simply have other skills as the priority. And this could also be good for the units who have gravity in their weapon like Glittering Claude, Brave Camilla, and also Elise, so that they can hit and run. Harmonic Tana also has a pretty nice harmonic skill, which is going to be useful for Sacred Stone and Heroes units, and it does give you resonant shields and also refreshes the ally within 2 spaces from those games who has got the highest HP and they have acted. So this can definitely be pretty nice for a lot of Gale Force teams, because you have the positioning of Canto 1 now available, and you also have this kind of refresh. So technically she can provide 2 actions, which is going to be really useful in Aether Raids offense, and can also be useful in Aether Raids defense for having duo hindrance. And of course in Summoner Duels you have a free real estate of using the duo and harmonic skills. So overall, a very solid unit, all things considered, from the support aspect, from the nuking, and also with this harmonic button. If you want to build up Tana on a budget, then you simply need to give her Blade Session and Reposition, and that is pretty much it. She already has her base kit, which is quite good, and if you want to change up things from her base kit, then it's mainly going to be the sweep. So you could run Water Sweep, which is useful in Summoner Duels, especially when dragon units can run the distant counter. And if you feel like you face Duo Duma quite a lot, then Water Sweep could be nice. And as it is, a lot of physical Farsive units tend to not run any kind of distant counter to begin with, because they are maximizing their bulk. But keep in mind there's Mufasa, who has distant counter in his weapon. You can also run Luna on her and then bring it down to 1 cooldown with maybe Asker or Duo Chrom or any of the special support, and that can be really helpful so that you can trigger it on your double attack. And it's also possible to run Lethality and Heavy Blade, but then you're going to be missing out on some offensive points by not running Blade Session. You can definitely run Lethality with Heavy Blade as well, because triggering Heavy Blade is not that tough with Tana, because she can get a lot of attack with her weapon and also inflict the attack penalty on the opponent. And if you have someone like Duo Thor on your team, then you don't even have to run Heavy Blade, and you can just get the special acceleration from her. Summoner Duel options are quite varied depending on your team and the teammates you run with her, and the kind of units you face a lot, so it will change the build that you want to run. And you can also use her in Aether Raids defense with Brattle Katria. Life and Death can be run because the attack check in her weapon is a visible attack check, So it could help you, and you can definitely take care of a lot of Brave Hectors and Ascended Idunns and check them. And you can also quad attack while having Windsweep because of the partial null follow-up. So with Brattle Catria, she's going to be really strong. Not to mention, your entire team gets like Canto 1, which is really good for positioning and for retreating. So that is going to be nice so that you can teleport and then attack. So overall, a really solid Aether Raids defense unit as well. And you can also use her with Heavy Blade, like I said before, for using lethality. And you can also use some special support so that you can bring her cooldown down. And it's not going to be the hardest thing to trigger Heavy Blade. So this could be run at lower investment as well, but more merges and Dragon Flowers does mean that she has better chances of getting Heavy Blade. You can also use her with Speed Preempt because she does get quite a lot of attack from her weapon and can actually survive some non-red opponents if they don't really hit too hard. And if she gets a lot of attack penalty on them in the combat. So that's an option. And again, Life and Death is here so that we can just have the better visible attack check from her weapon so that we can get even more attack. And you can also kind of attract a lot of chill attack and chill speed debuffs because we do have the Unity skill here with this kind of build. So it doesn't matter if she gets debuffed on those stats. So she's definitely one of the few units who can make use of Speed Preempt. But most of the time she's going to be used with Windsweep as it is. And finally, you can also use her in Arena at plus 10 merge. Even though like she's not the highest scoring unit, still she can be good so that you can get Canto 1 on your entire team. And if you can compensate for the lost score with some other high scoring units, then she's going to be a pretty good support unit. And you can also use her in Aether Raids offense on a Gale Force team, like I said, pretty much just to get the Canto. So this can be really helpful so that you can position your units better. And even if you teleport after the Wings of Mercy, you can still Canto. And this is the fixed Canto, by the way, so it can still work after Wings of Mercy. If you're using her with the Gale Force team, then your priority should be to take out Duo's hindrance or to straight up just kill their Duo units and Harmonic units, because then you can have access to her Harmonic button and essentially get an extra action if you're running a Heroes unit or Sacred Stones, and you're going to be running Heroes units if you're going to be using the Mythic units that a lot of people use, especially on a Gale Force team. Like you're probably going to be using Plumeria on Astra or Asker or Peony in Light Season, so the extra action can definitely be pretty nice. Flame Tribe Rinkah is a sword infantry unit this time with no preferred weapon, but that's fine because if you're going to be investing into her heavily, then we do have Arcane Elutnir as the rearmed hero weapon, so that makes her viability a lot better. So Rinkah does have pretty good speed at base 41 and high base 44 defense. Usually these kinds of fast units don't really have as much defense, but Rinkah is definitely an outlier in that regard. She doesn't really have the highest attack by the modern standards and definitely tries to focus on her speed and defense for tanking, and her resistance is also not that high. She does provide you with attack speed ideal 3 at 4 star, so that could be a good skill to inherit if you want to get the tier 4 version, and Odd Tempest is also pretty nice. And Flame Gunby as a inheritable weapon is pretty decent because it does give you +5 attack and defense, and also pretty much has no cap on its attack and defense debuff, which it can cause on the opponent depending on your visible defense. But a lot of times it is going to be facing competition from Coral Saber, which is going to be helpful for a lot of slow units to get the auto follow up. And if you've invested into a unit heavily, then it of course competes with Arcane Elutnir, which is just the superior weapon. We have a ton of sword units in the game, so of course Rinkah does struggle against, especially against the really stacked ones, but honestly she's not too bad with Arcane Elutnir and is definitely one of the best users of it. So if you want to build her up on a budget, then you can simply give her speed defense link so that she can get even more debuffs with the visible defense buff that you can get out of the link skill, and extra speed is always nice. But if you're going to be investing heavily into her, or you're going to be going to the max merges, then I would highly recommend giving her Arcane Elutnir. So this weapon is extremely good on Rinkah because the -1 special cooldown enables you to run Vital Astra, and it also pretty much gives you a pseudo null follow-up because with her high speed, most of the time she's going to be able to double pretty much most of these slow units who have follow-up negation, and then because of being a fast unit, she can also stop their follow-up attacks. And the guard effect in it is really amazing. So you can just get attack speed ideal 4 from the divine codes, and you can give her time pulse and Vital Astra and pre-charge it and pretty much get the stack damage reduction with spurn and the special. And you can also run the finish skill on her along with the bulwark skill for getting even more healing. So this can be a pretty self-sufficient build. So we are giving up some damage reduction for the self-sufficiency in her slot B. And you can also run her with Shield Pulse and Godlike Reflexes. But keep in mind that she doesn't have any natural mini special spiral or any kind of way of pre-charging this. So you have to run Shield Pulse and then you have to run Flashing Blade so that you can loop it. So it is going to be taking you slot B and your Sacred Seal, but I guess if you really want to run that, then it's an option, but I really prefer having Vital Astra on Rinkah a lot more. And I think she functions with Vital Astra a lot better even, because most of the time she's going to be taking on the melee units. But still it's an option, so I just wanted to mention it. But not the one that is my favorite for sure on her. You can definitely run her with the finish skill and then have velocity. So this can be really good for getting the null guard, which is going to be helping you trigger Vital Astra twice in your player phase against, a unit who can counter attack. And you can pretty easily pre-charge Vital Astra and instead run Speed Smoke 4. So you don't have to run Time Pulse with this, and you can just stack up like 75% damage reduction with a build like this. And you can also run her in Arena at max investment, but unfortunately because of Arcane Elutnir not scoring as much as a legendary weapon, you're not going to be able to push her BST scoring to 195 with maybe some good tier 4 slot B skill that appears later on. I think running Distant Dart on her is definitely going to be helpful because she can easily retaliate back with Vital Astra that is also helped by the null guard of velocity. So this can help you just one-shot many units and one-shot common units like do a dagger for example. So this is something you can definitely do, and you can run bonus doubler and also run the Oath 4 skills that you can have the high offenses, which is going to be helping you against many of the really fast opponents that are going to be facing in Arena. And if you want to use her in Aether Raids offense, then Bulwark skill is pretty nice so that you can get the Obstruct, and you can then simply pair this up with a Farsive unit. And attack speed unity is going to be helping you against the debuffs, which are going to be quite common in Arena. And she's actually going to be having quite a high defense as well, so that is susceptible too in a way. But most of the time she's going to be able to easily take on most of the melee matchups. And you can also use her in Summoner Duels S as a front liner with Vital Astra. So she does have really high defense, and you can kind of double down on this by running Speed Defense Ideal or run Attack Speed Ideal with Speed Defense Form Sacred Seal, basically getting a bit of defense some kind of way. So boosting up her defense more is going to be really good here so that you can front line much better, and lull attack speed is going to be helping you against matchups like Brave Seliph for example, who always gets the visible buffs out of his Slotsy skill. So lull attack speed is definitely pretty nice and is something that you can run in her slot B. So this is something that you could do depending on the captain skill that can synergize well with her, and simply have her as a frontliner. The final unit of this batch is going to be Flame Tribe Muspell, who's a colorless dragon this time. So he has got 180 BST and he has got Breath of Flame as his preferred weapon. So this weapon is actually pretty stacked for a dragon, and definitely is a step up from the original Muspell's weapon. So it has got -1 special cooldown built into it, and it also has Time Pulse built into it as well, which is really good because cavalry units cannot have access to it. And then if he initiates combat, or if he's within 2 spaces of an ally, then he can get +6 attack to himself and -6 attack debuff on foe in the combat. And he also gets a guaranteed follow-up attack, which original Muspell lagged quite a lot. And then finally he can pretty much cut through any kind of damage reduction skill by 50%. So we have seen this before on Dual Lift, and he pretty much does a similar thing instead of completely neutralizing it, and this can definitely help him quite a lot. And he also has a new skill in Dragon Strat 3, which is going to be giving him more true damage and also more damage reduction, and now this does work in both phases. Muspell's base kit is definitely pretty synergetic with his playstyle, and so is his stats. So he has got 43 base attack with his super boon, so he can get even more true damage out of the Domain of Flame and hit really hard. And his defense is also pretty nice. His speed is the dump stat, but it doesn't really matter too much because he does get the guaranteed follow-up attack, so at least he can double attack in the player phase if you need him to do that. And you don't really have to run Crooked Post like the normal Muspell or even like Dragon's Ire 4, which is really expensive. And Domain of Flame is going to be making him into a pretty good support unit for a lot of your Aether Raids offense team where you use Vantage units, because the true damage is going to be helping the allies to one-shot, and he's much better as an Aether Raids defense unit as well compared to the original Muspell, who didn't really do too much. Even though he did have Fatal Smoke in his weapon, having the auto follow-up in my opinion is a lot better, and also having this kind of time pulse in this weapon, and also being able to bust through the damage reduction skills. So he's going to be pretty useful there, and he can actually be quite useful in Summoner Duels as well as a pretty underrated AoE nuker. Now a lot of people probably don't run him as that, but you'll definitely see what I'm talking about. So overall, Flame Muspell is a pretty fantastic unit who's really good support with that Domain of Flame, and he's a much better offensive unit now with this new weapon, which can really help him a ton. He also has Dragon's Wrath 4, which can be a good fodder, and it usually competes with Dragon's Ire 4 for a lot of the dragon units, but if they are fast and if they already have an auto follow-up, then they might prefer having Dragon's Wrath 4. So here are some of the good users of it, and Dragon's Wrath 4 is a 300 SP slot B skill, so it means that it is going to be a really good skill on a lot of dragon units to boost up their scoring along with distant counter Dragon Sacred Seal. So a unit like Legendary Myr can get much better score with having this skill, and she already has auto follow-up in her weapon, so she can easily run Dragon's Wrath and get more damage out of the skill. And she can definitely run a mixed phase build with attack defense catch instead of having the unity skill or bracing stance, so this can definitely allow her to one-shot units a lot easily and also kill them in the player phase. Naga recently got a weapon refine, and she's going to be fast enough to make use of this skill, and she also pretty much already has Dragon's Wrath in her weapon, so this can stack up with that to give her more true damage and also more damage reduction for functioning with distant counter dragon. And Legendary Corrin is definitely someone who needs a weapon refine, but if you want to boost up her scoring, then this could be done. And pre-charging Negating Fang is going to be a bit tough, especially in Arena, but still this is going to be boosting up your scoring. You can also run this on many other flying dragons because they don't have access to a lot of skills as it is. So someone like Female Grima could definitely run this on a max build, and even on infantry dragons that have auto follow up like Saros. So this could be used on Saros in like Aether Raids defense if you have heavily invested into her. And someone like Summer Tiki, who does have the weapon with special acceleration and also more true damage, you can definitely try and stack up even more true damage with Dragon's Wrath 4 and pretty much function in the enemy phase with this kind of build, getting the damage reduction even more with the speed smoke, and then also retaliating back with Noontime to heal up. It can definitely be run on a lot of other dragons as well, like Fallen Lilith for example, but mainly you want to use this on fast dragons or the units who have some kind of auto follow-up, so that you're not missing out on running some kind of Dragon's Ire 4 or maybe some other important skill. And a lot of dragon armors pretty much want to run Hardy Fighter as it is, so this is mainly going to be useful for the cavalry, flying, and infantry dragons. If you want to build up Muspell on a budget, then you can just give him attack defense catch as the Sacred Seal, and you should be fine. But if you want to invest a bit more, then Glimmer is the special I would recommend. So he can pre-charge Moonbow and Glimmer because of the time pulse in his weapon, which is really great, and because distant counter Dragon Sacred Seal is a thing, you can definitely try and use that. And you can also use them in Summoner Duels S or Summoner Duels in general as a pretty underrated AoE melee nuker. And the reason why this is going to be pretty fun is because he already has -1 special cooldown, and then you can pulse it down with time pulse. And then you just need to run like Asker, Duochrome, or maybe Valuria to pre-charge this, or maybe when like Secret Maneuver is a thing, that could be done. So with the true damage that he can do, and also with his high attack stat, he can actually shred through a lot of teams and do so much damage to them, and then be really annoying to kill because of his damage reduction. So this is something that he could do, and not the best thing I guess in Summoner Duels compared to Duo Thor, who's a lot easily slottable in any kind of team, and this kind of Muspell definitely needs the team support. But I'm personally a big fan of the melee AoE nukes. So this is definitely something that he could do as a Cavalier. And whenever Erosion is a thing, he can have a 4 movement Muspell with this AoE special. Just thinking about it makes me really happy that he has got this option now, so you could definitely use him. And you can also use him in Aether Raids Chaos as a Vantage support unit. So as a support unit, you definitely want to run the Drive Attack Sacred Seal, and then you can also get Attack Defense Ruse from the Divine Codes from Astrid. And as a support unit, you're mainly going to be using him with Vantage units like Shez, for example, who already has the special acceleration in his weapon. So he doesn't really need Duo Thor or Brave Lucina for the special acceleration. And Brave Marth can also work out with Muspell. And he's actually a much better cleanup unit than the original Muspell. So you can pretty much run this build on both units, and you wouldn't have the same color with your Vantage unit, especially if you run Shez or Brave Marth. So being colorless dragon is definitely pretty nice. And you can also run him in Aether Raids defense with a rally up skill so that he can rally up and he can just move forward in your team and provide the Domain of Flame to the units. And you can easily use him with Brattlecat your team with like double save units, and he's going to be doing a pretty fantastic job there. And he can actually deal with near save tanks a bit better because of having this kind of dragon strat and also having the auto follow up. But the units who have follow-up negation, and if they have decent amount of speed, then they can just stop his auto follow-up right there. But if he's got Brattlecatcher support, then he can do the Brave Attack, and that's going to be doing a lot of damage. If you invest into him heavily with merges, then he can score as a 190 BST unit, so he can support there, and you can just run him with Dragon Strat 4, his default build, and just encounter Dragon Sacred Seal. And finally, if you just want to run him for player phase, then I suppose you can run this build, which is pretty expensive with Sturdy Surge and Attack Resistance Near Trace. And you can run Bonfire because it is going to be becoming a one-turn special with his Time Pulse, so that is actually pretty good. So instead of running a pre-charged Glimmer or Moonbow, this is going to be the option with Sturdy Surge. And with the auto follow-up that he can do, he can definitely heal up a lot of HP while also doing a lot of damage. So that was my review of the Flame Tribe banner. I know I'm a bit late, but I hope you all still enjoyed. If you did, then make sure to leave a like and comment, helps me tremendously. And if you really enjoyed, you could always support me directly by using super thanks or by becoming a YouTube member down below. And for more favorite videos, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell, because I wish YouTube sub boxes showed my videos as many times as the amount of Lyn alts that we have got in FEH at this point. So with that said, I'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.